Hi everyone and welcome to Protocol 36, and in today's video we'll be talking about the rumored Sinister Six lineup for Spider-Man No Way Home and the possibility of what the title of No Way Home could mean in the film. Before we get started, if at any point you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you could drop a like, as that would really help out the channel. Thank you. Now, when it comes to Spider-Man No Way Home, to say there have been many rumors and leaks surrounding the film would be an understatement. And yesterday, Jeff Snyder from Collider pretty much said who the main villain is going to be and what the Sinister Six lineup could look like. Before this news dropped, I wanted to do a video on what the Sinister Six could possibly look like in Spider-Man No Way Home, which was suggested by AnotherMarvelGuy, who makes amazing content on YouTube, and I suggest you check him out and subscribe to him. Link will be in the description down below. But obviously when the news dropped last night, I knew I had to cover it. Now obviously when it comes to things like this, we just have to keep an open mind that this could possibly be false and that the rumor may end up not being true. So please do take this with a grain of salt. Now, to read what Jeff Snyder said, he goes on to say, "I heard Sandman, Rhino and Lizard. Those are the other three I heard. I don't know if any of those are confirmed. I don't know if Reza fans, Paul Giamatti or Thomas Hayden Church have been seen on set or anything. I haven't really been paying attention to the paparazzi photos." That was my understanding. All six of those past Spider-Man villains, it doesn't really make sense to introduce new villains necessarily in the film, but six Spider-Man villains from the past winding up in Peter Parker's universe or whatever, they're the ones who have no way of getting home. So yeah, we will see. I hope I didn't let the cat out of the bag. Spoiler alert, I take it all with a grain of salt, but that was the word on the street at one point. So with the Sandman, Lizard and Rhino possibly being from the past Spider-Man films like the Raimi and the Amazing Spider-Man franchises respectively, and adding on to the two other villains that have been confirmed to show up, that being obviously Alfred Molina's Doc Ock and Jamie Foxx's Electro, that gives us one more villain to make the Sinister Six. Furthermore, it's also been reported that Jeff Snyder did say that Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin will be the main villain of the film, most likely from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, pretty much making him the leader of the Sinister Six. So as of right now, the Sinister Six is rumored to have Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, Jamie Foxx's Electro, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman, Reza Fans' Lizard and Paul Giamatti's Rhino, pretty much all of them being from either the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy or the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. And the reason why the film is called Spider-Man No Way Home, because all of those villains have no way of getting back to their own universe, and the last thing they remember is being killed by Spider-Man, which will most likely be the reason why they're after Tom Holland's Spider-Man, because all they see is a Spider-Man, which obviously reminds them that they were at one point killed by him, obviously referring to Tobey Maguire's and Andrew Garfield's versions. Now, in my opinion, I don't really necessarily think this is true. The reason why is because, as a lot of us know from the previous films, not all of them were killed by Spider-Man. I think the only one that was truly killed by Spider-Man was Electro, as it was Peter's and Gwen's intention to kill him. The others though, not exactly. For one, both Sandman and Lizard were alive at the end of Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man 1 respectively. Doc Ock sacrificed his own life to save New York. The Green Goblin pretty much killed himself, though I think it's safe to say that he would still blame Spider-Man for it. When it comes to Paul Giamatti's Rhino at the end of the Amazing Spider-Man 2, we don't exactly know what went down between Andrew's Peter Parker and his Rhino. Either of them could have lost a fight, though I would like to think that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man did come out on top, especially when they were going to plan an Amazing Spider-Man 3 before that got cancelled. Since we're not going to get the Amazing Spider-Man 3, anything is possible. Maybe Paul Giamatti was killed by Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, or maybe Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man did lose at the end, though I don't think that's the case, especially when we're most likely going to see him in Spider-Man No Way Home. Though the title being called Spider-Man No Way Home because the villains have no way of getting back to their own universes does make a lot of sense. Also, it's pretty interesting, though I think we still need a double meaning. So maybe it's about the villains, but also about Tom Holland's Peter Parker not being able to find his way back to a normal life after what happened at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. However, that's just a guess on my part. That being said though, with the lineup not containing any of the MCU Spider-Man villains is kind of shocking, as at the end of the day, Tom Holland's Spider-Man is the main character of that film, so it would only make sense to use a Spider-Man villain from his universe, or at least a villain that has a personal vendetta against him. I still think Green Goblin will be the main villain, but I still have trouble believing that it will be from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, since if that's the case, as I mentioned before, he would have a personal vendetta against Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, not Tom Holland's. But then again, you could argue that since Tom Holland's Spider-Man is still Spider-Man, regardless of which version, he would still try and go after him, which I can see happening, but I think that version of Norman Osborn would want to kill the Peter Parker from his universe instead, which again will most likely show up in this film. So either way, the main villain has to be a character who has a personal vendetta against Tom Holland's Peter Parker, or at least has to be from his universe. Jeff Snyder said it himself to take it with a grain of salt, and it seems like he's not really entirely sure himself, so we just have to wait and see what it could possibly mean, especially when a trailer is around the corner sooner. I'm thinking hopefully Tuesday, which is Tom Holland's birthday, we could possibly get the trailer, but obviously that's just me speculating. Hopefully with the trailer being out, it would give us enough information on what the film would actually be about, whether it be Spider-Verse or not. Though at this case, I think all of us are pretty much convinced that it will most likely be about Spider-Verse, if not tackle the multiverse in some sort of way. I was hoping the Sinister Six lineup to contain 2 villains from Raimi's Spider-Man, 2 villains from The Amazing Spider-Man, and 2 villains from MCU Spider-Man, which we could have a perfect balance of each villain from the previous Spider-Man films, and pretty much make the villain that they're going to introduce in Spider-Man No Way Home the leader of the multiverse Sinister Six. However, that's just wishful thinking on my part. At the end of the day, it's kind of too early to tell what the Sinister Six is going to look like in the film, assuming that they're going to go into that direction. However, I want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on the rumored lineup for Spider-Man No Way Home? Do you like it? Do you think it's true? Or do you dislike it and don't think it's true? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please like, and want more, subscribe. To begin, Protocol 36.